Okay, so this is my file, and just to unfold the joints on the outliner, you should have approximately about 7 to 9 joints from the head to approximately the joint before the tail, which is here, and another 4 for the tail. Okay, all the way to the end here. Alright, you should have your joints flush in a straight line. Okay, as much as you can. It should not be bent. Alright, because we need the IK spine to flow along the path. Okay, so I'm going to insert the IK spine first. I'm going to go under skeleton, create IK spine handle. I'm going to select the first joint on the head and one to this joint, which is slightly above the tail. Okay, so that the IK spine will create a curve, and this curve will attach to a motion path which I drew earlier. I have it here. I'll show you how to draw it later. And then I have joints after the IK spine to control the tail. Okay, so we need the tail to propel the fish ahead, right? So thus this rigging would be most appropriate for this exercise. Okay, so once I got the curve done, I'm going to hide my other elements. Okay, hide the curve. And I'm going to select the curve and do a rebuild curve. Alright, so by default, if I turn on the edit point, you can see that there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 crosses. Right? If I zoom in, you can see these little points here. What it does is that it moves. I can use these points to move the fish. Okay, so in rigging, just to explain, the joints are created and the body of the mesh of the shark is bind to the skin, and I create the IK spine which create the curve, and these joints are bind to the curve. Right, so I have this curve attached to the motion path, right, to get it moving. Okay, so I'm going to rebuild the curve so that I have more points. If more points, the bending of the fish will be more curvy. You can create more smoother curve versus lesser points. Alright, so I'm going to hide the polygon, select the curve, and under modeling, under curves, rebuild curve. Okay, I'm going to on the option, and yours by default has 4 span, so I'm going to ramp this up to maybe 25 and click apply. Alright, so over here at the curve, if I right click edit point, highlight, you can see now there's a lot of little crosses. Alright, so it creates these crosses, and then it will help in the bending of the shark. If there's a very sharp angle of turn for your motion path. Okay, right, with more points, you can bend smoother versus a curve with lesser points. Okay, so I'm going to turn back on the shark, and I need to rotate the curve towards the side camera. Alright, so the shark needs to face the side camera. So by doing this, I need to go down to rotate Y and enter 90 degrees. So you can see that the shark is facing the camera. Okay, so if I go to the perspective, and if I will start to draw the curve using this icon here, click and hold, click and hold, click and hold and drag, click and hold and drag. Okay, you have to design a path which is, as natural as it can be for your shark. for your fish or whatever fish that you are modeled on. Alright, so if you want to edit the curvature of the path, right click and hold on to edit point. You can shift higher or lower. Okay, higher or lower or closer. Okay, it's up to you. Alright, so you do your research and check out like how a shark would swim. Then study the motion. Alright, so if you have a goldfish, then you should check out how the goldfish swim, or depending on what fish you have for your model. Alright, so obviously the shark tends to usually circle around the fish tank. So later I'll place a fish tank later if I want to. Okay, so I'm just going to position the path. Okay, maybe something like that where the shark is going to go around. Okay, so you should, of course, having a side view, you should look like there's some high and some low. Okay, so you don't want it to be on one plane where the shark does not swim higher or lower. Okay, so let's say you are happy with the path. Alright, so remember principle of animation, the path should look rather smooth. It should not have a sharp angle. Okay, maybe something like that. Okay, so I'm gonna go in here and start to attach the shark to the path. Alright, so I'm gonna select I'm gonna name this guy fish motion. Path. So for you to see easier, sorry, spelling. Okay, and this one's the fish curve. Alright, so I'm going to get the fish curve to attach onto the fish motion path. So I select the fish curve, select the motion path, and go into rigging, and go down to constraint, attach to motion path. Alright, so I'm going to increase some time for my frame rate here, so 40. Okay, so for your exercise, you need a minimum of 10 seconds. Alright, so if your fish is bigger, you want to swim at a bigger area, obviously you need more time, so I'm going to put 15 seconds. And then again, going back to the motion path, and just make sure I do a reset. I'm going to use the default and click apply. Okay, so you see that it's kind of messed up here, right? It should not be swimming in this direction. I'm going to go back and check what happened. Okay, so since I forgot to freeze transformation, so I'm going to freeze transformation on the curve. And then again, I'm going to try to attach again. So I select the curve and the path and do a attach again. Okay, there. Okay, so now once I play, so you can see that the fish now swims around or follow the path. Okay, So you can see that there's some twisting here where the shark kind of flip over, which we need to fix, which is in the IK handle. So I'm going to go to my IK handle and holding Control A attribute, I'm going to scroll down to the IK solver attribute, and under advanced twist, control enable advanced twist on. Okay, so when I press play now, okay, so the shark does not flip anymore. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is to get the shark to really wrap around the curve. You can see especially the bend here, the body does not actually bend at all, right? So I want to get the shark to bend around the curve. What I need to do is select the curve of the shark, and I'm going to go down to constrain flow path object option, and I'm going to enter 25 like how I did the rebuild curve. Okay, so apply. So you can see now the fish bends around each corner. Alright, so press play. Okay, so for this exercise, we want the fish to be swimming at a constant speed, and around the corner, the shark should kind of slow down, right? So I'm just going to go down to the motion path of the shark and go down to the channel box. Select motion path. You can see that this is selected. It's highlighted in red, means that there's animation on the path. Alright, so I'm going to turn on the graph editor, and you can see that by default there's a ease in and ease out. Alright, if you look at this curve here, so we want a constant graph. So I'm going to click this icon here to get it constant. So now if I were to play, okay, so the shark will be traveling at a constant speed throughout this curve. Okay, so we know that the shark needs to slow down around the bend, right? So as it goes around the bend, it needs to slow down, and then it needs to accelerate and then slow down again. It's just like driving a car. So when the car goes around a corner, the car needs to slow down. It needs to brake and then slow down before it can turn a little bit and then continue its journey. So I'm going to work my way around all the corners. Okay, on the motion path. Alright, so the first curve, alright, maybe over here you can see that this curve here, I want to slow down at this corner. Selecting the motion path, right, I'm going to set the first key, and I'm going to scrub a little bit forward here. So around maybe here, the curve starts to complete. I want to slow down the speed. Okay, so I'm going to slow down. Okay, this is similar to your bouncing ball. So we want to slow down. As you know, in time we can hold longer. So if I drag longer here, the shark's going to maintain around that area, a longer area. So I'm going to zoom in here just to study this little example. Okay, so you can see that the shark comes to a complete halt, right? Almost to a complete stop. Alright, so we don't want a complete stop, right? So the shark needs to slow down, but it should not stop, right? It should slow down slightly before it starts traveling again. So I'm going to go back into my motion graph again, and then reduce this value, right? So obviously that this is too much. Reduce this a little bit, and then play around to get the timing. Alright, still too slow. Maybe something like that. You see a difference? So the shark kind of like slow down, alright? So to make it more obvious, I'm just going to increase another 10 frame. Alright, so there's a slowdown, but I mean we don't want it to slow down until it looks kind of unnatural. Okay, so maybe I will tone down a bit. Okay, so you need to use all the weighted tangent again, similar like your bouncing ball, right? I can go in here and then again do the weighted tangent, under curve, weighted tangent, break the tangent, and try to smooth out this a little bit, right? So maybe over here, I don't want it to hold that long, okay? So I can wrap it out slightly. Okay, so there's a subtle speed where it kind of slow down a little bit. Okay, so you are supposed to work on it and get all the corners as natural as it can be, right? So your fish should slow down as it bends around. Okay, so let's say you have worked with all the corners, right? So I'm going to work on the tail after this. Okay, so you are to work around all the corners, and once you're done with that, we want to work with the tail now. So it's going to be similar like your pendulum. Again, I'm going to select all the joints after the IK spine, and again I'm going to do I'm going to set the first pose. Probably here. Okay, so I've created one cycle. So again, similar to a pendulum again, so the bones that's furthest away from the main body should get lesser and lesser value, right? So again, I'm going to go down to 9 and reduce this value. Maybe I reduce by 2. And the next one I'm going to reduce. And the next one I'm going to reduce again. And again. And the last joint, alright, so if I turn on all the tail, again it should look like this, like your pendulum exercise, right? So once I got that, really easy, I'm just going to duplicate, copy, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. And I can repeat this throughout, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, all the way to the end of the animation. And then I'm going to do the offset, right? Similar again to your pendulum. Select the first batch. And shift 1 frame. And then the next batch, I'm going to shift 1 frame. And the next one, the last one. Okay, so if I select again, so you get the offset value similar to your pendulum, right? So the tail is the same as your pendulum. Okay, so if I press play, okay, so